We are. Well, we're not live. I don't have us on YouTube. Do you want to do that, or?
It's up to you. I was just about to ask if we're doing that or not.
Nah, I think we'll just continue posting the audio to YouTube. I think I'm fine with that. We haven't gotten any traction doing that, so, and I don't know anybody who's going to sit down and watch like an hour and a half's worth of a podcast. I do it very occasionally, but it's not something I do often. All right. Well, good morning, Cam.
Good morning, Mitch. How are you?
I am doing well, I will say. Things have been weird this last week. I'm not going to lie, but I'm feeling pretty good.
All right. Well, that's fair.
Well, we've got two, and don't get like weird about this, but we got two associates at work that went out on leaves, and this last week we both found out that they both have terminal cancer. So it sucks. One of them I'm decent friends with. The other one I don't really know that well, but they've both been gone for long enough that it's like life's moved on, so I got to go see the one that I'm friends with yet. But I don't want that to bring down the podcast this morning. So, I mean, it's life, but
yeah.
That's
hard.
Mm-hmm. I'm working on a blog post. Really, it's in conceptions right now on how do you live knowing you're dying. And it's just kind of my way of kind of coping with that. But I put some initial thoughts up on my blog, but I haven't really dived into it at all. I think would be a good study. But anyway, so we talked about recommended apps last week. Your recommended apps. If you now go to mitchcraig.online, I have recommended apps listed under the my stuff, I think is what the link is. If you go under that and look for recommended apps. I didn't do it the same way Cam did it. I just kind of gave a list and not so much categorized, but did kind of list a category for them. So they're kind of in an order. They're blocked by what the app does. Like I put my creative apps together and, kind of group them together in a way, but I didn't put headers to split them all up. So.
Yeah, go check it out because it'll be different than mine. Not just in style or structure, but also in what Mitch recommends. So
have you looked at it?
If you heard my stuff last week and you're like, man, this dude's crazy, go check out Mitch's list because you might agree with some of his stuff.
Did you look at it yet?
Yeah, I did. I looked at it when you sent it to me when it was in its early stages. I haven't checked out the final version. I was going to wait for you to announce it to the world before I went back and checked out the final version.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up right now so you can look at it. Like I have Fantastical on here that, we talked a little bit about last time, that you're, pretty much stock calendar app guy. So, Notion is somewhere where we differ. You lean towards, Obsidian.
Oh, I don't lean towards. I drink the Kool-Aid.
You're
I drink the Kool-Aid on Obsidian. Yeah.
Obsidian. I'm heavy into Notion just because I think it thinks the way I think. So.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, again, to the conversation we had last episode about this, I love the fact that we each have an app that we can fully dive into and use, and it works the way that we want it to work. And we don't have to like I'm not stuck trying to force Notion to do stuff in the ways that Notion does because I can do what I want to do in the way that I want to do it in a different app.
Right.
And the fact that we're at a point where those are just two of like 7 options in that sort of space that we have. I just think that's so awesome that and then the people that are really into like Logsack or like there's other options for people to do that similar kind of work. And I just think it's a blessing that we have these tools to be able to do that, because it helps us better make sense out of what we're trying to make sense out of, whether that's, podcast database stuff or your Star Wars book and TV and movie database, which I reference regularly. So thank you for that. Or me and being able to take notes from the podcast that I listen to and the books that I read and have them all coalesced into one spot. It makes me excited, if you can't tell by the exuberance in my voice. It's really cool.
And I have not updated the Star Wars books recently. So there are some books out there that aren't on that list yet, but hopefully I can gather them together and get those on the list. But Halide Mark II is an app that I use for photography occasionally. I work primarily out of the camera app, but Halide Mark II, a video app, if I'm not going to use the camera app, I like the new Blackmagic camera. It's a little nerdy, and I've heard rumors, and I don't know if they've officially announced it or not, that Filmic Pro is going away.
Really?
So
why?
I don't know. But Blackmagic does a lot of what Filmic Pro did. So
I was going to say, Filmic Pro has been around for ages. It was like the first pro video app, the first one that you could shoot log on. They changed their business model a while back, and apparently it didn't work out for them if they're going away. So that's a bummer.
I have my audio editing. I've got two apps listed here. One is Adobe Audition. The other one is Ferrite. I don't use Ferrite a lot, but that's what I use on my iPad if I need to do some just real quick editing. I've used it on my phone before too, and it actually works fairly well even on the small screen like that. So, Pocket Casts for podcasts. I'm just kind of looking where we differed on some things. The reading app, I think you had books, just Apple's books. I've got the Kindle app.
Well, yeah. So I had Apple's books, but I changed it because I put all my EPUBs into Reader by Readwise.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. I was, but yeah.
The sports app that I typically use, I know you use The Athletic for different things than what I use a sports app for, but I've got sports alerts in there. Which I like, even though it's an ugly app. It has some really nice features as far as like your notifications and live activities and stuff like that. They were really one of the first ones to support live activities, even before Apple's support really was robust. So so they kind of became my go-to app for sports scores and stuff like that. And I've got Audible in here. I don't know if we talked about Audible last time. I think I touched on it, but I threw that on here.
Nice. Yeah. Audible's solid.
And then I know you're a big Raycast user. I've got a Launch Bar in here as my Spotlight replacement. So, but those were the only places that we differed drastically. And this list is probably going to change over time. I don't know that I'll take away a lot of them, but I will definitely add some to the list. So see where it goes. All right.
So speaking of changing, our recommended apps, I realized the other night when I couldn't sleep that Apple's, like the package where you get, music, news, arcade, fitness, Apple TV Plus, iCloud, all that sort of stuff, the big package. And I need 2 terabytes of iCloud. 1, because I need the storage, but 2, that's the lowest tier that supports multiple cameras. But I would need it for 2 terabytes anyways, just because of how much stuff I have in iCloud. They bumped the price up. It's like $37.95 a month. And I was like, well, I don't use Apple News. I don't use Fitness Plus. I don't use Arcade. I don't really use Apple TV Plus right now because the shows that I like on it don't have any new episodes, so I haven't touched it. So it's like I'm literally paying $37.95 a month for iCloud and Apple Music, which turns out those two together is $9.99 for 2 terabytes of iCloud and $10.99 for Apple Music. So let's just call it $22 or $21.98, right? So I'm literally paying $15 extra for nothing. So I was like, okay, so I'm changing that, and I'm just going to pay for the iCloud and Apple Music. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to pay the same price for Apple Music as Spotify, would it hurt to just check Spotify out to see, what the difference is? Because it's been a long time since I've used it, and I've heard rave reviews from friends that use Spotify about their like customized playlist for you, the listener, based on what you listen to. And like even right away, they had like 5 different daily mixes for me that were broken up by like the sort of genres of music that I have. So it's like, if I'm feeling classic rock, here's my classic rock daily mix. If I'm feeling like chill acoustic Americana, here's, my playlist that has like Amos Lee and Ryan Adams, and or here's like a daily worship playlist or whatever. And I was like, holy crap, this is incredible. So that being said, I'm trying Spotify out, and I will report back in 2 weeks to see if they're able to pry me away from Apple Music. But one of the other things that I realized as well, and I put in the show notes that I'm trying Spotify out for science, is I'm so used to Apple Music's UI that like I by default go to the same playlists, go to the same artists, I listen to the same stuff over and over again. And I found already that just because Spotify's user interface is so different and I'm not used to it all, I have no muscle memory there, that I'm listening to stuff I haven't listened to in a really long time, or I'm listening to new music that I haven't listened, just because it's right there. And I don't have the muscle memory of, I'm going to go listen to this favorite song again because I know how to get there in 2 clicks. I'm trying new stuff. I mentioned Amos Lee. I listened to him for the first time in like 2 years yesterday. I was like, holy crap, I forgot how much I enjoy this guy's music. It's super chill. It's really good. And so I'm already finding that sort of benefit. And that doesn't mean that Spotify is better than Apple Music. It's the novelty of the interface and trying to figure out where stuff is and how it works. And so it could be any music player, but it's simply the novelty of having to learn where to go. And then like, I just click this button and listen. Great. So that's already 2 benefits I'm seeing from the Switch. Is that enough to stay? I don't know. It's the same price. It's $10.99 for both. So we'll see. But that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that would woo me away from Apple Music right now is if the price was better. But I also have the added issue, if you want to call it that my wife is on Apple Music as well, so we're kind of locked in. So
you're on the family price or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a great deal. I think it's like $16.99 or something like that for the family price, which is...
Well, we have the Apple One bundle, but not the 4 app bundle, not the 6 app bundle. So I've got
Gotcha.
Apple Music, Apple Arcade, Apple TV Plus, and the iCloud Plus. So...
Yeah, and it would be a different conversation for me too if I had, family right on the same plan as me.
And I use the Apple Arcade frequently enough to make it worth it for me. So
yeah, I was looking at that and like, because that was one I was like, do I consider keeping that? But it's like the only games I really play on my iPhone is the New York Times games, right? Yeah. And that's like, if I'm going to play a game, I'd rather it be on my PlayStation or my Switch, on a big, because especially if it's like I need a controller, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't do racing games on my phone. It's like, I need the joystick. My thumb is a highly refined steering machine, but if I have a joystick, not just jamming it into glass. And I like racing games, but to each their own.
And I'm primarily looking at like puzzle games and like Infinite Runner style games. I love Alto's Odyssey. You know, what was the other one? The solitaire game that we talked about, Solitaire Stories. There's a couple other games that I had in there that I was playing that were Apple Arcade games that I really liked. I don't understand the Sneaky Squatch game, or Sneaky Sasquatch, whatever it was.
Never even heard that one.
It's huge on Apple Arcade, but I just can't. I tried playing it and I'm like, I don't get this.
Yeah, those Alto's Odyssey and Alto's Adventure games are very calming. Except when you like beef it on one of the rocks, then I get super mad.
there's
just like
no
the
game.
art style and the sound and the ambience, and playing that on the Apple TV is actually really fun.
Yeah,
the input's a little laggy.
Yeah,
but
I've noticed
seeing that on a big screen is really, really pretty. Yeah, like it's like an Infinite Runner in the style of Monument Valley, if that makes sense to people who have played Monument Valley but not Alto's games.
Yeah.
And you're snowboarding instead of running. So,
well, sandboarding
or sandboarding in some biomes, yes.
But I really appreciate the game because it is calming. But there's no game out there that elicits more audible reactions from me when I mess up, because you'll be running for a while. You're going down this hill and all of a sudden it's just one little stupid thing, you know. Yeah. But anyway.
The what gets me the most, I joked about beefing it on the boulders, and that is frustrating. But what's frustrating to me is like when you go off one of those giant cliffs where you can hit like a triple backflip, and then like you land and the boulder is right in front of you, or there's another cliff that you can't jump over because you just like, that's the annoying part, is like there's no amount of skill that can prevent just the random generated, you're just screwed because the game decided you're screwed. That's what gets me the most upset. And why I stopped playing, because I would like rage. So play at your own risk, folks.
Yep. All right. Well, you had something you wanted to talk about today. I've got some opinions, and we'll hopefully get a nice, good conversation out of this. If you haven't listened to this last week's Connected with the guys from Relay, do that, because that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. But let's get into it. All right. The MacPad.
Yes. Oh, that mad scientist from Italy, Federico Vitici. Okay, folks. So like Mitch said, there is a podcast called Connected that if you're listening to us, no doubt know exists, because I don't think there's any person on the planet that would listen to us that doesn't already know about that show.
Yeah, we reference it all the time. So, well,
and they're also one of the biggest, Apple tech focused podcasts that I'm aware of, and have been around forever. And so if there's someone that listens to this show that doesn't and has never heard of Connected, please let us know. That would just be crazy. Or in our parlance, buck wild. So anyway, so Federico, he's, for those that don't know, runs MacStories.net and has for a year, and has been the leading iPad proponent for years. Except lately he's been a big Mac guy, because he just finally realized he was doing iPad gymnastics before anybody else was. He was automating stuff before shortcuts and workflow was a thing. Like, he is the OG iPad for work can happen, when it took absolute, what's the right word here, Mitch? Ingenuity to force the iPad to be able to do things it wasn't yet capable or designed to do.
I like gymnastics. That worked.
Yeah.
Because that's probably more appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, MacStories.net. I think it's one of the best Apple focused websites on the entire internet. Federico and his team do incredibly good work, and they're very creative and very honest in their critiques of the Apple ecosystem and the apps. But what he's done here, Mitch, I say all of this to like Federico knows what he's doing. He's been doing this for a long time. He's incredibly reliable, and I would dare say, I hate the term thought leadership in a corporate way, but like he is a trendsetter when it comes to this sort of stuff. He did something absolutely bonkers. He saw a video on YouTube where a guy took his MacBook, I don't know what the original guy used, and he took the display off of it. So it's just the bottom half of the computer, the keyboard, the trackpad, the speakers, the battery, the USB-C ports, right? It's just, the screen is just gone, to use it as a keyboard and trackpad for his Vision Pro. This is how you know people have too much money. They spent the money on a Vision Pro and then decided to take their $1,200 laptop and just turn it into a keyboard and a trackpad and just remove the display. Like, it's just frivolous, right? But hey, good for them. And so Federico saw that and was like, oh, that's perfect. I'm going to do that for my Vision Pro. But then he took it a step further, because this is what he does. And he took magnets and hinges and mounted his iPad Pro to his MacBook Air keyboard and trackpad, and created what he said, how I created the hybrid Mac iPad laptop and tablet that Apple won't make. And he made he Frankensteined this thing together, and it's one of the most buck wild things I've ever seen, because he's not only using it for Vision OS, and I'll shut up here in a minute, and Mitch, you can chime in, but he's using Sidecar to run Mac OS on his iPad Pro, but the iPad Pro can also detach from the laptop and be a tablet and run iOS. And you can use slide over while in Sidecar mode, so you can run Mac OS and iPad OS at the same exact time, have multiple audio streams at the same time on an iPad, and he's doing nothing but using out of the box Apple software. There's no gymnastics here other than the physical gymnastics of Frankensteining this thing together. It is, I was blown away by this. This is crazy. So that's the stage that we are now going to debate this on. So I'm flabbergasted by this.
So my feeling about this, I saw what he did, and as he was explaining it, I kept waiting for the modding thing to come in. Like, what modding did he do? And when it comes right down to it, he took the screen off his laptop, and he with magnets stuck his iPad on the keyboard of his laptop. Mm-hmm. And then he uses Sidecar to do that. Now, see, here's the problem I have with this. Everybody's like going nuts about this, but really the only like interesting thing he did is destroyed his M2 MacBook Air by taking the screen off of it.
His brand, well, not brand, the M3 just came out, but still, like,
yeah. I mean, this was not an insignificant device to like butcher. So
mm-hmm. It was his main MacBook, yeah, his working machine.
And I have my my iPad mini in my hand. Like, there's nothing he's doing with his iPad Air that I can't do with this, other than the fact the screen's much smaller. But if I had an iPad Air here, I could do everything that he's doing without butchering my MacBook.
Well, so I guess the difference is that it's mounted to the keyboard, right?
Yeah.
And so the whole thing that this started out as was the best keyboard and trackpad combo for Vision Pro turns out to be the keyboard and trackpad from the laptop.
Yeah.
And taking the display off is a bit gimmicky, because you don't need to do that to use it with Vision OS. It's that part of it, the Vision OS keyboard became like, even if you read the article, that's at the very bottom. Why I started this project is like 3 paragraphs maybe versus 25 for the rest of the story. I think the reason that a lot of people are going nuts about this is the fact that he's running Mac OS on an iPad flawlessly and is able to also run iPad OS at the same time, where Sidecar is just a continuity app that he can get rid of and dismiss at any point. He can VPN or use screens to, not VPN, it's a different acronym that I can't remember at this point.
VLC or not VLC?
VNC. There we go.
VNC. There we go.
To log into his Mac from his iPad. He can initiate Sidecar from his iPad, which you're supposed to start Sidecar from the Mac, but he found a guy on the internet who made a shortcut, and he adjusted that shortcut to then be able to initiate Sidecar from the iPad. And so it's the conversation around the seeming inevitability of Mac OS and iPad OS merging, which 2 to 3 years ago, no one wanted. Keep them separate. We don't need touchscreen Macs. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's a really interesting concept to think that I can just run Mac OS as an app on my iPad Pro when it's convenient for me to do so. And then when I don't want to do it, I can just go back to the native iPad OS. I can still use the keyboard and trackpad if I want to, or I can make it in tablet mode. And I guess that's the interesting part, is, to me at least, is the seeming convergence of Mac OS and iPad OS, and Apple backtracking from we're never making a convertible tablet. Mac OS is never going to be, you know what I mean? And who knows if Apple ever makes anything like this? They may not, right? But just the fact that it's possible to do this without any modding of the software, right? No weird. It's out of the box stuff that Apple has been making. Sidecar came out 5 years ago, that was when I heard that blew my mind. I was like, Sidecar's like a year or two old. I totally forgotten how old it was.
Yeah.
And so I think that is really what is captivating people's imagination, is Apple could do this today.
Yeah.
The technology exists. Whether they choose to do that or not, I think, is where the discussion lies, right? And the debate as to the usefulness of this. And, a lot of people are on, oh, this is just a gimmick. This is just clickbait. And Federico's like, I've been using this for 3 weeks as my main device, and I'm not going back.
Yeah.
Now, Federico is always an edge case. Always. He's always pushing boundaries, and he'll change his mind in 6 months, right? Like, he is always, that's just how he is. How useful this would be for normal people, I think that's an interesting discussion. The answer is probably not terribly, but we're nerds. And so this is a point of a great opportunity to debate the merits of something like this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, and I think that, I'm not taking exception to, and I do want to say, we weren't going to have much of a discussion if the two of us just sat here and were like, oh, this is really cool. So I'm looking for like areas to have the discussion from. And to me, there is kind of an issue with, or like, I've seen people calling him a modder, and I come from an era where modding was, what's the
doing
word?
More than putting magnets on stuff.
Yeah, it was like you were taking like legit electronics out of something or putting new electronics into something. Like,
yeah, it involved at least a little bit of soldering and technical know-how. Yeah,
I mean, and the one that I've heard refer to him this way is Mike Hurley on the show the other day, and it's like, I think that's a bit of a stretch, because I can lean my iPad against the screen of my M2 MacBook Pro or MacBook Air and use Sidecar and make that the main screen and do the same thing that he's doing without tearing my laptop apart. And and I understand that's what he wanted to do, and I'm not trying to be grumpy old Mitch talking about this, but it was one of those things where I feel like it's a little bit much of it's a little overshot maybe. So, but
yeah, I think the part for me that really is just, I don't know, kind of blows my mind is way too strong of a term. Piques my interest is the idea of Mac OS as an app on the iPad. I know I mentioned this earlier, but like he shows the, when you swipe up and you've got your display of all your open applications, one of them is just a continuity window, and that's where Mac, you can just boop, dismiss it. It's like you're taking the entire, 40-year history of Mac OS and just going bing and sending it back into space. It's just funny to me that we're at the point now technologically where that can happen.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess where I land is if Apple can do this with currently existing and not even brand new technology, why haven't they done it yet? Right. And are they going to? And I mean, obviously we don't know. We can opine, right, about it. But like if this were not attached by magnets, right, or whatever, if Apple came up with some, smart connector or whatever way to,
well, let's be honest, they would use magnets. They just use it differently than the way he's doing it.
Yeah, it wouldn't look like this, right? Yeah. And part of the issue is like he's got an 11-inch iPad Pro connected to a 13-inch MacBook keyboard, so it looks kind of silly. But he said that the 12.9-inch, which looks much better because it's this much off, but he said it was just too unwieldy. It was heavier than a MacBook Pro, and I was like, well, yeah, whatever. I don't care about that if it looks better. Like that's fine with me. A 3.5 pound versus a 3.4 pound. Like I'm really not going to lose sleep over that. But I guess the question becomes, right? Okay, Apple can already do this with existing technology. They've chosen not to do it. If they were to do it, how do you think they would? So I'm curious what you think on that. Like, not would they or should they, but if they did, what do you think it might look like?
I think it's actually more like I think the device that we've seen, there's a device that I think they were working on in Apple that was rumored that was an all-screen foldable device. If you can imagine a 13-inch MacBook that is a screen all the way from the top of the screen all the way through the keyboard and down through the trackpad. And it would.
I don't want to type on a screen.
Yeah, you could lay it flat, but I kind of think that if they were going to do something like that, that's the way they would do it. And it would run a full Mac OS, but you would put it into tablet mode, and that would be a pretty big tablet. But yeah, people like their tablets. So
the iPad Studio, right?
Yeah. That's, I think they should make that device just to see if they get the sales. I think there's people out there that would buy it. But, they've talked about like a 13 or like a 14 or 15 inch iPad Pro.
That folds down into like a 6 or 7 inch.
Something like that.
Like
yeah.
iPad mini that.
Yeah. Well, the rumor recently was that they were working on a folding iPhone and they were just unhappy with the screens. The screen wasn't working out for folding. So I had a conversation with a guy at work the other day, and he just bought one of these little Samsung flip. It's the Z Flip, I think. It's not the little like flip phone. It's the one that folds into a larger, almost like a small tablet. And he's like, man, I love this phone. I was like, well, I said, I don't know that I would. And we had more conversation about this, but I wasn't trying to be Mr. Jerk, but I did look at him and say, I just don't think it would be for me though. And why not? And I was like, I can't get past the crease down the middle of that screen. Oh, you never see it. If you're looking straight on, you never see it. And I was like, I'd see it. I would just knowing it's there would drive me up a wall. Because from the side, you could totally see this nice, like, defined crease where the fold is. And it's terrible. So, oh, I think we lost him. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you just totally froze and then you disappeared.
Yeah, so my Wi-Fi must have dropped. So, we're going to talk about my new studio here in a little bit. Just as an aside, I'm trying out just the Eero. You can see the Eero on the shelf behind me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, why can't I? It's right there. Right there. It's like, that's weird because I'm doing it. Never mind. Anyway.
Yeah.
So it's hooked up wirelessly to the one downstairs, which is the main unit. And so I was playing around to see, I haven't had any problems on Zoom so far with it. So I'm wondering if with Zoom dropping out, if it wasn't that. But I might have to run a wire up here. I'm not thrilled about that, but yeah, because that's I have to drill holes through my house. So anyway. All right. What were we talking about with the...
you had just started the Z Flip story.
Oh, yeah. So the Z Flip that he has, I told him, I was like, I can't handle that crease down the middle of the screen. And he looked at me and he's like, well, you don't see it. You don't see it when you're looking straight on. I was like, yeah, I would see it and I would know it's there. Like, it's just like, yeah, it would just irritate me. So anyway, that was the long and short of the story. I'm not sure how I'm going to edit around what just happened, but that's the long and the short of the story. But yeah, that crease just drives me crazy. I would have difficulty getting past that.
That's fair.
Anyway, anything else you wanted to cover about the MacPad? I think it's an interesting experiment. But
yeah, definitely. I'm going to try something here. Ask me again. Ask me again if I want to talk about it more.
Did you want to talk more about the MacPad? Okay. All right. So, all right.
I'm going to abuse those.
Let's get into what's delighting us today. All right, Cam, what's delighting you today?
Let me show you.
Is it that little beauty that's sitting behind you?
Oh, yes, indeed. I got a new acoustic guitar, Mitch.
Very nice.
And it's awesome. I've had the same acoustic guitar for 20 years. I bought it as a graduation gift from high school, which I cannot believe I'm that old. And I bought it when I was 17, and I made a stupid choice, and I bought an Ovation. And that is what my acoustic guitar experience has been like for the past 20 years. And now I bought this. It's an Alvarez, and it is a full dreadnought size, and it sounds huge, and it's loud, and it has just, it's so much better than my old acoustic guitar in every possible way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had it for a week now, maybe 10 days. And I've played it every single day for a decent amount of time. And I can't believe I wasted 20 years on a crappy acoustic guitar. Because it turns out an acoustic guitar that sounds nice is so enjoyable to just sit around and play and to learn new songs. Like, it is reinvigorating my desire to learn new songs and to sit there and play them and sing and just, I love music, and I've been an electric guitar guy most of the time. But I feel like I have been missing out on this other half of guitar playing. Like, I love my electric. I love my pedals. I love making crazy sounds with my electric and taking it to outer space and lots of delay and just having lots of fun and being creative that way. But the simplicity of an acoustic guitar, the way it's intended to sound, like this Dreadnought, is just, it is such a delightful experience and enjoyable to listen to play. So yeah, I am very pleased, and it was not terribly expensive. Like because it's an Alvarez and not a Martin or a Taylor, the name brand doesn't carry an extra couple $100, right? So this is an $800 or $799 Alvarez. And when I say Dreadnought, for folks that don't know guitar lingo, Dreadnought is the classic, like Mitch, if you, can you grab your, well, we're not doing video. Never mind. It's the classic sort of like 8 shaped guitar. No cutaway, the very classic old school, really big, it's probably 7 inches, 6 inches thick. And it's just that shape of an 8, the big fat body, that allows it to have such a well-balanced sound. Yeah, Mitch has got his ukulele, which is the same shape, just much smaller.
Yeah. It's like my ukulele.
Yes, there it is.
Yep.
So anyways, I was able to get this guitar at a much cheaper price point than I would have to have gotten a similar Martin or Taylor, which would have been easily $1,400, $1,500, $1,600. And this is it's an all solid wood guitar. There's no laminate. There's no composites. It's completely solid wood, which means it's going to age incredibly well. It's going to have much better resonance. It's going to be more structurally more rigid. And again, because it's an Alvarez and not, again, a Taylor or Martin, I was able to get it at a much more affordable price. And it sounds pretty darn comparable to, now it's not going to beat a $3,000 Martin or Taylor, because it's just not. But the more entry level Martin or Taylors that are in that $1,500-$1,600 range, this is going to compete with those quite nicely. It's got a built-in amp as well, or a pickup, so I can plug it in and play it through the sound system at church. It holds tune incredibly well. Like, I've had to tune it like maybe once over the last 10 days. And that's just little itty bitty tweaks because the temperature shifted from 70 to 40 outside. Yeah. I'm incredibly pleased with it, and wish I had made a decision like this, I don't know, 12 years ago. But hey, here we are. So yeah, yay music, yay guitar. It's a ton of fun. So that's what's delighting me right now. What about you, man?
Well,
I'm excited for yours.
I made the comment about my new office. So I talked to my wife, and I obviously I can still hear reverb in here, or the little bit of echo in this room. So there's still some work to do on sound absorption, but I have moved from the basement that is 50 degrees to the second floor, which I can check the temperature up here because I have an iPad mini, or I'm sorry, a HomePod mini. Apple.
MacPad mini.
I'm gonna blame Apple for that. Anyway, I gotta find the home app here. Hold on. But I moved upstairs to the second floor. So instead of it being 50 degrees down there, it is currently 73 degrees up here. So it's a little bit different. And I think I've got a HVAC sensor in here that I need to put a new battery in because we haven't used it in a while. So, but that'll should help cool it down up here. But beyond that, I've updated a lot of stuff in here that I'm really excited about. I have updated my chair. I have a nice new chair with lumbar support.
I was going to say, I thought that looked new.
Yep, lumbar support and a headrest. The desk that I had downstairs, I completely built that desk out of basically 2x4s and then made it look nice. Did it more like a radio studio would do it, where it's just this big, kind of almost podium type thing that I built. And I had two desktops that I really like, two butcher block desktops that I used for that. And so I took the butcher block desktops off, or they're technically countertops, but they work really nice for desktops, and bought a sit stand desk frame. Vivo makes desks, and that you can also buy the frames separately. So I bought the frame. So now I have an auto adjusting desk, because I've set my preferred heights for sitting and standing. This has changed the game, by the way. I normally with desks, I want to have a keyboard tray underneath it, because the desks are oftentimes just a little bit too tall to actually have your keyboard and stuff on it. So you can't really comfortably type on there for too long. So you put the keyboard tray in there, which is nice. Well, this desk actually lets me drop it down lower. So I have my keyboard at a decent height. I've got my trackpad at a decent height. And that probably doesn't sound like a huge deal between one or the other. But if I've got my laptop sitting on the desk, which I use a lot, because I have my, right now, you and I are talking on my iMac, but I have my MacBook Air on the desk in front of me with show notes and stuff like that on it, just because this is the way I prefer to live, I guess. But it works really nice for me, and my hands are at the right height to be able to type and use the trackpad and everything on that too. So it's just really, really nice to have a desk where I can say, this is exactly how tall I want it. This is exactly how short I want it. And make those adjustments and customize it to the way that I want to sit at my desk. So, it's a lot more than just a sit stand desk. It has just being able to adjust the height on the desk makes a ton of difference. So,
yeah,
so I'm really liking
nice.
that.
I'm jealous.
So it's also given me the ability to decide how I want everything to be in this office versus the one I had downstairs. And so I've been able to basically start over setting it up. Now, there's a lot of things that I liked the way that I had set up down there. But there's a few things I wanted to change. And as you can see behind me, I doubled the amount of shelves that I have behind me. So now instead of two shelving units, I have 4. So now I've got a lot more space for, all my little knickknacks, my Lego projects. I've got a shelf dedicated to my Apple boxes. And I just needed some stuff to fill in. So there's some other boxes and stuff like that. But just to kind of, so you know what the difference is between the two shelves back there, because there's a bunch of like iPod and iPod Touch boxes. Actually, there's 2 iPod Touch boxes and a bunch of iPhone boxes down there. The stuff that's on the top shelf is all the stuff I'm currently using. So, yeah.
So you got your current everyday usage, and then you got the Hall of Fame on the shelf below.
Yeah. So, nice. But yes, I actually have a closet in here. So the storage has been a game changer for me, because I didn't have this much storage downstairs. So it's been really, really nice to have the extra storage. So I have a closet to put my stuff in, as opposed to having, you couldn't see it when I was on, I had the studio downstairs set up in a way that you couldn't see where I had all the storage and had all the crap stacked up and stuff like that. But trust me, there was a space there that was just a bunch of crap stacked up because I didn't have anywhere else to put it. Now I have a closet I can put that stuff in, and I'm much more organized up here. And one other nice side benefit is my wife looked at me. She was like, I like being in this studio better than the one downstairs. So, And come spring, I'm anticipating I'm going to have a lot less bugs up here. So, because downstairs I would run into spiders, I would run into lady Asian beetles. That was the main two. But every once in a while, some other weird thing would come through my studio. I did have a centipede down there once, which those are icky. I do not like centipedes. So I was watching a show the other day and they had a centipede that was literally like the size of their hand that was running.
Nope.
I'm out. Oh, yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is over.
Tacos
in
good
Japan.
Out here.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. No thanks.
So no fun, but yeah. So well, I've got nothing else for today. And relatively short show today. So anything you wanted to add? Have you been watching The Bad Batch?
No, I have not. I was going to ask you if there was any Star Wars shows coming out, either new seasons or new shows, but I suppose the answer to that is Bad Batch. Bad Batch is 4-5 episodes in right now, I think. And is this a brand new show or is this a new season?
This is the last season of The Bad Batch, so it's a new season. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But it's also the last season.
I haven't watched any of that actually.
Yep. I recommend it. It's actually quite good.
Is it less? What's the right word? I want to say this carefully because I know that a lot of people really, really, really liked Clone War or what's the other cartoon? It's Clone Wars, right?
Clone Wars and Rebels are the other two big cartoons.
Is it a little more, I suppose, maybe like focused towards adults, Bad Batch, or is it similar? Is it in the style of Clone Wars?
So my wife and I are rewatching Clone Wars together. I would say that the style is similar, but I think the ideas are bigger. If you watch the final season of Clone Wars, I think that really leads into the Bad Batch really well. And I think,
I haven't gotten that far. I'm like, I honestly, I haven't watched Clone Wars in probably like 6 months, but it just, because like, I appreciate Clone Wars because it fills in so much information and history, and you get like, you get to learn a lot more about the characters, right? Which is great, but it just, it feels cheesy to me in certain ways.
There's definitely episode arcs that are like that. Mm-hmm.
Well, and even just like the intro with that radio voice guy on this planet, like I just that is nails on a chalkboard to me.
Oh, I've understood.
And like again, this is opinion, right? And I've heard that Clone Wars, like you've told this to me, a bunch of other people, like it's worth watching because of how good it gets, right? In that last season. And so like, I know that I want to, I just need to remember to actually do it. Cause like, I really liked Andor and Ahsoka, Book of Boba Fett, not so much.
Yeah. Well, Book of Boba Fett like, was decent if you could accept it as a transition from season 2 to season 3 of The Mandalorian. The trouble is that it sold us a bill of goods that it didn't really achieve. I don't really feel a need to go back and watch it, honestly.
Yeah.
But it did kind of answer some questions about what happened to Boba Fett and stuff like that. But it was interesting because we were watching the Clone Wars the other day, and a character's introduced at one point, and I looked at my wife and I was like, "That's Boba Fett," and she's like, "Oh, okay." I get it now. I kind of thought he looked like it might have been, because he's not introduced that way in the very first. It's introduced in that episode that's who it is, but it's not immediately apparent that that's who it is, and it's just, it was kind of interesting to see, like, this is the first time in, after Attack of the Clones that you see Boba Fett. and so he's a little bit older, but not much. And and he's
I remember.
Yeah. And he's got this. Episode. He's trying to kill Mace Windu for killing his father.
And doesn't he have like a sort of like ragtag group that he's running with?
He's running with some bounty hunters.
Yeah. He's like maybe like 13 or 14 or whatever ish.
Yeah, and then you kind of come to find out that they're just using him pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But welcome to the real world, Boba. But yeah, it's little things like that throughout the Clone Wars that like getting some of the backstories on characters that you know already, getting to know some of the Jedi that you don't really get to know in the movies, or even the later TV shows. You know, there's a couple of arcs with Kit Fisto that you learn a little bit more about him. Some arcs with Plo Koon, so you get to know a little bit more about him, and kind of understand his temperament a little bit better, which I think is a nice. There's an episode that we watched the other day where Ahsoka and Plo Koon were out doing a mission, and she was real rash and wanting to jump ahead of him, and he was very calm and like patience, you know, and so you kind of learn a little bit more about the temperaments of the different Jedi as well. So it's good. Like I enjoy that kind of stuff a lot. So yeah, it's worth getting through some of the cheesy stuff to enjoy the good stuff. And there is it's all but happened at this point that Asajj Ventress is going to pop back up in the Bad Batch by the end of the season. Okay. She was in a trailer, so you know it's pretty much given that it's happening. The trick is, how are they going to do it? Because she's supposed to be dead at this point. And because she, in the Dark Disciple book, she sacrifices herself to save Quinlan Vos. And so this happens after that book. And somehow they make it make sense. So, but her character, like really early in Clone Wars, she has a very like one-dimensional character. But as she goes, that character gets better and better. And then in the book, The Dark Disciple, you learn a lot more about her, and where she's actually thrown off the dark side of the Force and wants to do good again. And so there's so much texture to her character as you get further down the road. And so I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with her in the Bad Batch, and what role she's going to play. So, because she's a tormented, she's at the point now, I think, where she's good, but she's tormented a little bit by it. So there's still the dark side eating at her. And like, I can imagine that she kind of rides the line a little bit when they bring her back. So we'll see. She could end up being a clone too. I don't know.
Ooh. Or maybe the witches bring her back with their voodoo.
Well,
the sisters or whatever.
I don't want to ruin anything, so I'm going to leave that alone.
Oh, okay.
That may or may not be a possibility.
Yeah, we're going to go with not be based on how that conversation just went.
Well, there's something so significant in Ahsoka when they bring back they have the three witches, and the fact that there was a witch still alive in the main galaxy, but then they go and they find these three witches in this other galaxy. So there's a significance to that, because to this point I can't remember where it happens, but the witches basically on Dathomir basically get wiped out. So, but they also can be resurrected as zombies too. So
it's a nice feature.
Yeah. But anyway. So
cool.
No, I've been enjoying the Bad Batch so far. It's kind of plodding along like I was kind of suspecting, but it'll be interesting to see how they wrap up the story arc with the Bad Batch. So
Very good. Are there any new live action shows that we know that are either like new seasons?
I don't think there's release dates yet, but
okay.
The Skeleton Crew is supposed to be coming. That's got Jude Law as one of the lead characters in it. I don't really know much about that one yet. The one that I'm excited for is supposed to be coming out this coming fall, and that's The Acolyte. I think we've talked about that a little bit on the show.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really interested to see how they handle the Sith and the dark side of the Force in that show, because they're supposed to be dealing with a lot of that in that show. It is becoming, or there's rumors coming out about that show that it has something to do with the cult of Darth Revan, which will be really interesting because he hasn't, as of right now, there hasn't really been an official like bringing Darth Revan back into canon. So if they do that, that'll be super interesting. I'm there for that. So
I don't know who that is.
Well, there is a book. Actually, Darth Revan popped up in the computer games, the Old Republic games. He was a main character in those games. And then there is a book, I think just called Revan, that tells a story about him. He's essentially a Jedi that turns Sith, and then they wipe his memory to bring him back to the light side. And
that feels like a dark side thing to do.
Well, no, the Jedi wipe his memory.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The irony is that the good guys wipe the bad guys. Like they just Men in Blacked him, but they're supposed to be good guys.
If I'm understanding the whole story arc, because I haven't played the games, but if I'm understanding the whole story arc on that, it's because he's so powerful. And so the Jedi take him, they wipe his memory so that he can't remember the being a Sith and everything. And so after that, he starts to remember a lot of that stuff, so it didn't stick in a way, but then he's conflicted. And so he's, he kind of rides the line, and those characters in the Star Wars universe that balance the light side and dark side, intrigue me. Mm-hmm. So because it's
more in line with real life. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because we all balance a little light side and dark side. Not that we should balance it in that respect, but you get, we deal with both.
Everything is tainted with sin. That's just part of the human existence.
Yep.
At this point in history, but it won't be forever, which makes me happy
for sure. I still have to highly recommend On Guard by William Lane Craig, which I think I talked about last time. I'm in the middle of his argument, his historical argument for the resurrection of Jesus. And what makes it so interesting is one of the qualifiers that he uses is you cannot just assume that the Bible is inspired by God in this argument. He obviously believes that the Bible is inspired by God, but for for argument's sake, he's like, I'm removing the ability to just lean on the Bible and say the Bible is true. So how do we historically defend the resurrection of Jesus? And I'm finding it fascinating. So
very good. I like it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that does it for this week. You can find us at innerdialogue.show if you'd like to, send us some feedback. Let us know what you think of the show. You can check out our websites. I'm at mitchcraig.online. And Cam, where can people find you?
CamBrennan.com.
Very good. All right, sir. Another good show in the can. It's been fun. And we'll see you back here next time. Later.
Peace.